welcome. I'm back live in the D. It's Adolph Mongo. We're live at Exchange, Detroit, in black and white. We're in beautiful courthouse. Yesterday it was in the 50s. Today we're freezing. Good morning, Jim Nardone, our resident expert on law enforcement.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Eric Brown.
Good morning. How you doing?
Listen, Eric, I'm gonna let you have my outrage because I know you want to go a little bit over. Because I'm outraged every day, so I can afford to give you one. Vanessa Moss, attorney Vanessa Moss. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you Detroit black and white viewers, co-hosts, guests, audience. We want you to like. We want you to hit that like button. We want you to subscribe. Like. You can catch us on all social media platforms. Detroit in black and white. Good morning, Dwayla Boyce. Good morning, Felicia Dean. Good morning, Bridget Huff.
Okay, Allan Lengel, we missed you last night.
Good morning.
You were lollygagging somewhere. Whatever you was doing, you popped up and then you disappeared. How you doing?
Good. Good morning, everybody.
And we talked about, we had a nice live discussion on the poll that you ran in Deadline Detroit, Ed Sarpolis.
Okay.
But you don't need a poll or a crystal ball to realize that if Duggan run as an independent and Jocelyn Benson, they're going after the same chunk of voters out of Detroit. And, you know, at the end, there could only be one. It'd probably be a Republican. But anyway, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Well, let's go outrage of the week. Jim, go ahead.
I'm going to start on the other side of the world with Ukraine. We had a debacle at the White House this week, and I don't care. I don't understand how Lisa McClain, the U.S. Congresswoman from Michigan, and Lindsey Graham and all these people are saying how well Trump and Vance and Marco Rubio sat there like a bump on a log, was just overwhelmed by it all. Look, about 3 years ago, 3 years and give a couple weeks, the people were enjoying their life in the Ukraine at an outside cafe, and the butcher, Putin, decided to invade their lives. So to make the victims responsible is outrageous, and to have what I'll call, excuse my words, a dick measuring contest in the White House during a press conference is outrageous.
Well, you know, they say Trump has only got one ball. Vance has no balls at all.
Yeah, you know what, Jim? I totally agree with you. That this is outrageous. It's ridiculous. And like you said, to be at the White House and, you know,
This guy, what?
It was just, you know, I watched it, of course, on social media, and I read a lot of the comments, and people are really disappointed in the actions, not only of the Russian dictator, but of the president of the United States. How do you invite somebody to your house and then disrespect them
and throw him out?
That's what I'm talking about. That's crazy.
He threw him out. He thought he was on The Apprentice. You fired. You know,
Right.
This guy is listen, whether you agree, there's a lot of folks I know said, fuck Ukraine, you know, because they go back in the history of the country. But Zelensky was a comedian who decided to run for president. He's been under siege for 3 years. He's battle tested. And he goes and see these fake ass people that's sitting up in the White House posing for a camera.
Right.
You're going to start World War III.
Right.
He ain't thinking about that. He's thinking about how we're going to survive the next attack, etc. And Trump and them they experts. And then Vance, is real disrespectful. They pushing on him and
Right.
they doing all kind of shit. Where the fuck they think they at?
And it boils down to decorum, So the site that you saw, I didn't see it live, but as I got in my car and listened to CNN and hearing it before I actually saw it, and you're like, wow.
Allan, what is your take on that and watching that?
I thought it was so disgraceful. I mean, you want to do a little press thing, then you go in the back room, you shut the door, you want to go at it, instead of showboating. I mean, and Trump at the end says, "Oh, this is going to be good TV" or whatever. I mean, and then when Zelensky says to Vance, "Why don't you come visit? Have you been to Ukraine?" And he goes, "No, but I've seen." And then he goes, "Yeah, I've seen your, propaganda tours." It's like, what is he going to give a tour saying, "Hey, Russia's doing some good things in our country"? I mean, people talk about Russia, Trump is Russia, Russia, Russia. There's a question whether it's official or not. He is a Russian asset. I mean, it's disgraceful. Look, we're not, our allies aren't all perfect. We can find flaws and vice versa. But we have alliances with these countries for a reason, and Ukraine there's nothing wrong with having a good dialogue with Russia, but in the end, Ukraine is our ally.
Well, but you know what? Trump and them don't get it, and a lot of times the presidents don't know everything, but they do have advisors that should know. For example, he told the South African government that's because Elon Musk. Musk is mad at the black government in South Africa. He want him to do some things. He said, "We're gonna take away some aid that the U.S. give them for AIDS and HIV." The South African president said, "Fuck you." He said, "We gonna not give you all the minerals you need because that's what you get from us for diamonds." All he started naming a list. Look at the Ivory Coast. They have 70-80% of the market on cocoa beans.
Right.
The U.S. Blew them off.
Right.
So they had the Chinese come in there and build this big factory. And the mega people say, "Oh, we don't need chocolate anyway. We got American chocolate." They said, "Where the beans come from?" Come from the Ivory Coast. He said, because these people don't get it. They hate Obamacare, but let me keep affordable health insurance. Yeah, they hate the government giving these so-called folks in the ghetto money, but don't take away my Social Security, Medicare, and all that.
About the SNAP.
Yeah, you know what? So these advisors, these DEI people that Trump. I'm gonna throw it right back on them. They not qualified to shine my motherfucking shoes, but they running the government, and this is how we deal with what's going on. It's chaos, and we saw it on a world stage. Yeah. We saw it. Man, the prime minister from Britain had to check Trump. And say, you know what, we support Ukraine. We giving them money and stuff. But Trump sitting up there, he looking like he about to implode, and he got his minions sitting up there. The Rubio supposed to be calling the shots. He over his head.
Yeah, Secretary of State, I mean, he the one that should have been intervening to say, let's take a moment and come back, but he just sitting there, like Jim said, like a bump on the log, and that was,
Well, what he want to do is invade Cuba, where they can take back the government and get Bacardi and them back into it on the island and stuff, and restore all the prostitutes and the casinos that Castro and them ran out. Eric, you can have my. I defer my outrage to you and your outrage.
All right, my outrage is, I'm a member of a Black Greek Letter organization. I refuse to call the organization Divine Nine, because we are not divine. If you look at the word divine, you will understand where I'm coming from. But at the end of the day, people send their kids to college to get an education. They do not have them, or should not have them, come back in a body bag. Omega Psi Phi, whom I have many friends that are members of that organization, unfortunately had a death this past, I think, Wednesday night of a pledgee. And the international president, to his credit, did send out a letter of condolences to the family of Caleb Wilson, a 20-year-old engineering student, nonetheless, at Southern University. Out at 3 a.m, unfortunately, he has died. And what we need to understand as Black people is no one should have to lose or pay the ultimate price to get into a social volunteer organization. And that's all we are, a social volunteer organization. Too many of these weak individuals in these organizations, they care about being liked more so than doing right by the principles of the founders of these organizations. I get less than a fuck about being liked by another fraternity brother. I'm going to do what I do. I have receipts to show I do what I do. And for someone to be killed at the expense of trying to get into an organization, that is complete bullshit. Excuse my language. It makes no sense. And I've been in this game for 41 plus years.
And they've been doing it for over 100 years.
Over 100.
Yeah, that is something to be outraged about. I too am a member of the Black group organization, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, over 40 years, active, committed to the community. I have 2 sons, and Eric and I have had conversations. He has 2 children as well. They both went to college, and guess what I told my sons? Listen, you're not going to get in any organization, and I'm not supporting it at all. If somebody is beating your tail, right? If somebody is taking your money or, basically holding you hostage, I'm not subscribing to that.
Yeah.
That is not the purpose of you going to college. I want you to go to college,
You get
have
education.
a good time, get an education. If you want to join an organization, join an organization because you want to, not because you feel like you got to do certain things to fit in. That is ridiculous. And you know what? That is an outrage.
You know why?
It is outrageous.
You know why I never joined? Because back when I was at U of M, Reggie McKenzie, All-American football player, played with Seattle, came back on campus with O.J. Simpson. They Kappas. They beat the hell out of the people on the line. They came. Now here they are. They playing pro football. They came for a weekend, and they was kicking the little pledges butt all over the place.
First of all, it's illegal, right? Our
But
organizations
people turned
and people do it.
turn a blind eye.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
purposely. Yeah,
They
That
hurt
is crazy.
hurt
Yes.
folks, and they do what they do. Now you know what's gonna happen. The national organization, Omega, are gonna say it was off campus. We got nothing to do with it, and they're gonna fight it in court.
Well, they will fight in court, and we know all of us. Well, I can't speak for Sigma Gamma Rho, but I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. All of us are organizations that have had deaths as a result of
Yes.
people pledge. I mean, Michael Davis back in 1993, it was on Oprah did a show on it, Jet Magazine, USA Today, and it's unfortunate because these organizations nowadays, it's about fellowship. And if you're willing as a grown-ass man or woman, willing to follow, I mean, you have guys that come into the alumni fucking chapter that want
40, 50,
respect.
60 years
They want
old.
respect. 40, 50, 60-year-olds. They want respect. They letting young motherfuckers bid on them and kick their ass for respect.
That's
So
right.
my thing is this, I'm not a
That is
dues paying
crazy.
member. I'm not a dues paying member of either political party. Me and Vanessa have talked about this numerous times, and she's surprised about my inactiveness with regard to my
I am.
fraternity because I'll be very involved. But I would never pay another penny to my organization to be an active member. I'm just won't do it.
Hey,
I don't need it.
No, I'm gonna say
I don't
my
need it.
defense, I am an active member, right? But I don't subscribe to those kind of activities. When I was an advisor to an undergraduate chapter, guess what? I turned some people in because they were doing things that they should not be doing to those young ladies.
Well,
Listen, for me, they were like my daughter.
Babies, yeah.
Are you
you
kidding me?
well, that sounds like the military boot camp where people,
Well, that's where the
recruits
right.
have died in training, but they training to go to war and all this other stuff.
And that's where Hazen really took off,
Alan,
after World War I.
Alan, you belong to a fraternity?
I don't. I never. When I went to school, when I went to college, it was very anti fraternity. I mean, the fraternity was very, very straight. Clean cut. We all had long hair. I did wash dishes at a sorority for 2 weeks, but
Trying to get a girlfriend.
He was
right. We were doing that to meet women and free food, free meals.
You want to join the sorority?
It was limited.
Let's take a break. We come back.
Before we do, Adolph, again, prayers to the family of Caleb Wilson. That's the young man who was killed allegedly at the hands of Omega Psi Pi Fraternity.
And I feel for his family. We'll come back. We'll do Vanessa, Allan, and we're gonna bring on mayoral candidate Fred Durhal III. This is Detroit in Black and White. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Yeah, welcome back. We were just talking about OJ had a mean streak in it. He wasn't a frat brother.
No
he
kidding.
was OJ.
So Dave says you went to college with his mom and dad in Michigan. So
What?
Dave says you went to college with his mom and dad in Michigan. So
Well, who is his mom and dad?
So all I can say is we're verifying that you attended
Donald Waddell and Billy Hatcher. Does that ring a bell at all? Or it's a big school, man. Michigan's a big school.
He said, why are we pledging to a Greek fraternity knowing their history of
plagiarism from our
ancestors?
That's oxymoron.
Well, first of all, we're not pledging a Greek fraternity. They are Greek letter organizations that has nothing to do with Greek.
But you know what?
Let me say this.
I'm gonna tell you this. There was a guy that lived on my floor in the dorm. He was from Greece. He was studying English, and he saw all these party Greeks get in free. He said he wanted to go, so I took him, and $5. I paid the $5. They said $5 to him. I said he is Greek, and they looked at me. He pulled out his a Greek driver's license. They let him in. He said, "Where the Greeks at?" Here they are, because he was confused. I couldn't explain to him.
Listen, I need people to understand a couple of things. One, I learned early on in life that people only do to you what you allow them to do. So you have to be a very strong individual. When I came into the sorority, I was 19 years old. What that young man went through and what other people went through, I did not go through it, because there was things that I was like, I'm not going to do. But there was absolutely not. Okay. Absolutely not. But the other thing is this: being a member of an organization is not a negative thing. You may have negative people doing negative things within the organization, but it's not a negative thing.
Right.
Listen, I learned Robert's rules. I learned how to be a leader. I was able to hone my skills. I was able to form friendships and relationships for life. So there was a lot of positive things we continue to do. We continue to give back to the community. So it's not a negative thing. There's some people who've done some negative things, and there are some negative people. But for the most part, I don't subscribe to saying that being a member of a Greek letter organization, and as Eric indicated, we are not Greeks. We are members of Greek letter organizations. And guess what? We do a lot of work in the community.
Well, we can continue this conversation forever. So we need to move forward. What's your outrage?
So my outrage is, I was sitting here and I was like, what is my outrage going to be? Listen, the gas station over on the west side that was shut down.
It's
And
opening
the
up.
chief, they signed a consent order. Okay, they did some things and they signed a consent order and said that we're going to abide by these rules so we can open back up. Now, the people in the community are pissed off because they feel like they should have had a seat at the table and there should have been some communication. Listen, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this thing out. If you don't want it to open back up, don't shop there. Don't buy gas there. Boycott the place. If you don't want them in business, it's an easy fix.
So how was the boycott?
There's
Did that work?
For me, it did. I
With the Target and I bought some gas. I mean,
I don't believe he goes to Target.
I went.
But-
I have it on video. I went to Target.
Let me see. Show
I went
the
to Target.
receipts. But at any rate,
Yeah, you saw. Yeah, I mean, it was meaningless, Jim. It was meaningless.
but there is another gas station right across from that gas station, right? And there's a grocery store right down the street, and a grocery store that people shop. I mean, a lot of people shop over there. So if you pissed off, you outraged that this gas station is supposed to open back up, right? But listen, if you don't want it in your community, guess what? Don't
take your money.
Don't
Don't
take
take.
your
don't pay for
money
it.
there.
Okay, Allen.
I want to say real quickly, we've seen Jeff Bezos put a dictate for the Washington Post editorial page, which, people can argue people don't rely as much on the editorial page, but he's told them can't write anything really negative about commerce or whatever. So the head editorial editor quit. And so people have been reaching out to me and asking if I cancel my subscription, which is sort of a natural reaction. I have not canceled my subscription. And the reason being, I have a lot of good friends still at the Washington Post who are, highly ethical, very talented, who still want to practice their craft and make a living. If they were to ask me to cancel, I would, but I know they don't. There's other ways of protesting Jeff Bezos by not shopping at Whole Foods or Amazon Prime or whatever. And it's not always easy, particularly for me right now. I'm still recovering from a surgery, so I've had to order from Amazon Prime more than I'd like to. Although the other day I ordered from Macy's. I needed a new some pots and or frying pans or whatever, and so I ordered from Macy's instead of there. But I guess the bottom line is that I'm keeping my subscription for now because I want to support my friends who are.
Well, the editorial page, and listen, I work for a paper in Colorado Springs where the editorial page thought Ronald Reagan was a liberal, but the reporters were pretty liberal themselves,
right,
covering stories and the community. Sometimes you can't control what's on the editorial page. The Detroit News for a long time still is. They got some idiots on the editorial page.
Yeah.
Same with the free press. This is what you're dealing with. Only people like the owner of the Post now, all these so-called CEOs, these billionaires, they is getting on their knees and paying homage to Trump because they know Trump is a vindictive son of a bitch.
But I guess the biggest takeaway is that Allen did not maintain a relationship at the sorority house. They could have done so.
Exactly. But, I have a quick story about that editorial. When I worked in the Lansing Bureau, a group of us after work went to Lizards, which was a underground bar in East Lansing. And we walked in with trench coats on, and we had trench coats and ties, and people were, we walked in and there was dead silence in the bar. When we walked, they thought we were cops or FBI. So when we're leaving, some of the students go, "Hey, are you guys cops?" And we said, no, we're at the Detroit News. And one guy goes, "Detroit News, right on." This was like 1986. He goes, "Detroit News, right on, pro-Reagan, anti-union." And we look at him like, "Fuck you, man." We represent that, but we were all liberal and not, doing that. So, but anyways.
Joining us today is one of our contenders for to be the next mayor of Detroit, Councilman, and what district?
7th District,
7th district. That's far west side, right?
West Side Detroit.
That's border Redford
And border of Dearborn.
and Dearborn. Fred Durhal III. How you doing, Fred?
Oh, great. Good morning. Good morning to
Good
you all.
morning.
Happy to be here on the show. I gotta give a big shout out to my wife. She watches the show. She loves the show.
We got him on the hot seat, man.
Right. On the hot seat.
We got him on
She is
the hot
majority,
seat.
we understand. Is that
She
correct?
is. She
Tell
is.
us a little bit
So
about
anything that you say will be used against you. I just want you to know.
I already knew that. That's why.
No, she's
She's in private practice.
But she can be a prosecutor.
one day, man.
No, I'm talking about at home.
Oh, you're gonna get me talking about that. I'm not getting in trouble on here, man. I've been fooling with you this morning.
Well, anyway, the question, number one question, why? Why you want to be mayor?
Yeah. So Detroit is, I think, in a very vulnerable state. It's an interesting state. We'll have a new mayor for the first time in over a decade. But as we look at our city, how it's transitioned, and some great things have been happening over the last decade, it is possible for us to go backwards if we don't have the right leadership. And the right leadership is going to take someone who's experienced, but also has relationships in Lansing. A lot of the things that we're going to need to do here in the city of Detroit, those roads kind of lead through Lansing, getting things done through the legislature. So you got to know where the bathrooms are up there. You got to have already fostered relationships, but you have to have that experience and bridge that gap. And I believe we're a candidate that can bring folks together here in the city.
What's some of the main issues that you hear out in the community that people want the mayor to deal with?
Well, public safety is still an issue. People still talk about it. I mean, we do have some of the lowest homicide rates in over 30 years. Fatal and non-fatal shootings are down. But what I tell folks is if you feel safe, right? You're only as safe as you feel. So, the question is, as we bring these numbers down, do you still feel comfortable if you're a young lady here in the city of Detroit filling up at a gas station after 5:30, 6 o'clock p.m.? Are you still comfortable that your kids can run and play throughout the neighborhood just by themselves while you're keeping a small eye on them, like they used to do back in the day? And so public safety is a huge issue. Public transit, definitely a huge issue in order for us to become competitive as a city. And we're one of the largest municipalities in our region, in the country. We've got to improve our transit. We've got to make it more reliable. We've got to connect our communities. But we also hear really about our commercial corridors as well. I'm going to be very focused as a mayor on our commercial corridors, creating walkable neighborhoods where you can go to a pharmacy within 1 mile of your house. You can go within 1 mile of your house and get fresh groceries. We don't have that right now. And so downtown has been great, and we need downtown to continue to grow so we can generate enough revenue to fix the things that we need to fix. But we're going to have to fix our commercial corridors adjacent to those neighborhoods so folks who live there feel the progress. That'll also be a catalyst for small businesses that link to generational wealth to help solve poverty, which is one of the other big issues.
Councilman, I have a question. What's Allan Lengel? I have a question. You're talking about all these things that we should be doing. What have you done as the council member to try to address some of these issues?
Absolutely. So I just sponsored an ordinance that passed unanimously called the Pilot Fast Track Ordinance, which sets out to create 1,400 new affordable housing units in the city of Detroit per year, while locking developers into 15 years of affordability, and then locking them into a 15-year commitment of compliance. And so if you are building a new unit here and you get a payment in lieu of taxes, you have to spend $15,000 per unit. So you can't build rinky-dink units that are affordable units here if you get this incentive. And if you're renewing the incentive, you have to spend at least $6,000 to upgrade. And this is going to change the way we do affordable housing here, because it'll also expand it all the way to workforce housing. So this incentive goes all the way from 30% to 120% AMI, addressing low-income affordable housing, workforce housing, and giving developers, even smaller developers, an incentive to build.
Jim,
Can you tell the viewers, let's just assume they don't know who you are, a little bit about your past, about your dad, how you ended up in the legislature as a state representative?
Yeah.
And Habitat for Humanity. I want to hear a little bit about that.
So been around quite a while. Contrary to popular belief, I would say folks call you the second generation type of politician or public servant. I've been around since I was a young fella, stomping the grounds with my dad. My dad was a former assistant to Mayor Coleman Young, one of the greatest mayors the city has ever had. And I had the opportunity to view folks sit at the feet of like John Conyers and some of the greats that came before us and learn. You kind of stray away from politics. Anything your parents do, you generally run away from it because it's token the family business. And then I remember my dad finally got elected or reelected, should I say, in 2008. He invited me up to the House floor. And I remember that day, I'm like, man, I could really see myself here. It was just this weird feeling. And so I turned to my dad and I said, you know what, when you're done, I'm running for your seat. And like any great father, he said, you're going to learn that S. He said, you're going to learn that. You're not just going to run off of the name. You're going to learn it. And so I spent 5 years in Lansing learning. I call it the most grueling internship. It was free. He did feed me every now and then. And learn the legislature, gain institutional knowledge in the legislature, foster relationships there, right? And my first term when I ran, I became the assistant Democratic leader of the House. In the second term, I was the ranking Dem on House Appropriations. And so I left there, went to work for the Michigan State Housing Development Authority for 2 years. And then I ran for council because the seat became vacant, and I'm not going to talk about how. We ran and we
You replaced the crook.
Right.
We got somebody that was honest and the people trusted, and we got the crook out of there.
And you know what? Name recognition goes a long way. People were very familiar with the name, so it was very easy for them to check the box for name recognition is somebody that is known to be a good person. I do have a comment that I want to make. We have a field, a lot of people that are running for mayor of the city of Detroit. I want to congratulate you because you know what? I feel like for the first time in a very long time, we have some real options.
Yeah.
You have some real competition. Everybody that has entered the race, for the most part, most of the people that have entered the race, I'll say most, not only have roots in the city of Detroit, but have worked in the city of Detroit, knows the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit knows them. Experience in politics, experience in the community. So I just want to say congratulations because you know what? It takes a very brave person to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to be the CEO of the city of Detroit. But I also think you're brave because you know that you're in the field of you got some stiff competition. And you know what? You said, that's okay. I'm up for the challenge. And I think that is awesome.
Well, I got a question. Go back. A sitting city council person, history says that the last person that was on council, 1957, was elected mayor. How you break that trend? And I didn't know that until somebody pointed it out. It was Louis Mariani. He was on council. Well, he became mayor because Cobo died, but then he ran for re-election. Irma Henderson, longtime council president, decided to run against Coleman Young. She was always the highest vote getter in the election, but it didn't transfer over into the mayor's race. How do you break that trend?
Well, I mean, there are two mayors or more that also were state legislators. And I'm going to be the only candidate in the race who is a council member and served in Lansing.
Who was the two?
So yeah, Coleman Young, Kwame Kilpatrick.
Okay, you got those two.
I mean those are two recent
Right.
that you had, and they have direct ties to Lansing. And so I say that to say I think that's what you bring that is unique. You become multifaceted. And what I would say is folks are saying, I know you got stiff competition because name recognition and things out there. this person may look exciting in this way. Listen, when you get into those neighborhoods and you get into those living rooms and you get into those senior buildings and you're talking to folks, you get the real.
We got three
Right.
council people, one former council people, the minister. You got somewhere the trend is going to be broken by someone.
Yeah. Our friend Marlon Holt has a question for you. He said, Mr. Durhal, are you ready to work with President Trump for the good
That
of
was
the
going to
city?
be my question.
Yeah, I mean, so that's where experience kicks in, right?
Right.
I served both of my terms in the legislature in the minority. In the first term as the assistant Democratic leader, I had to throw bombs at the other side, but I still got things done. I got a public act passed in the legislature, which is a difficult thing to do in a Republican-led legislature.
Tell us a little bit about some of your legislation.
So this public act that I got passed was important to me. I introduced I did that because right after the Trayvon Martin incident, there was something that happened in Michigan where somebody changed one of the electronic signs and it said Trayvon Martin is an N-word. No penalty for that, and just even it being unsafe for folks to tamper with our traffic signals, tamper with our signs on the road that tell you about road conditions or accidents, and even railroad crossings. So we introduced that bill. We got it passed through the House and it got signed by the governor, and that was my first public act. But a lot of my work was done on appropriations. So we still delivered money in the legislature, in the minority, close to $1 billion for revenue sharing for police, fire, EMS, while folks were down here trying to rebuild this city. We were delivering that money from Lansing. We also were delivering funds to say vital programs like DAPSEP, Flip the Script, programs that help our youth here in the city, and many others, Meals on Wheels. I can go on and on. We were delivering those programs down here to assist with rebuilding the city of Detroit. And so you got to have that Lansing experience.
But Lansing, in light of the political climate, do you agree that you have to have some kind of relationship with the people in D.C. to get some things done? And what is your position?
Oh, absolutely. So, and to answer the former question, yes, with whoever's the mayor, they're going to have to work with Trump, whether you want to or not. So you've got to have thick skin. You've got to have the ability to work in a bipartisan way and still deliver. And so for Lansing, yes, you have to have relationships built. I have relationships built in Lansing. Most of the folks serving in the state Senate, I serve within the House right now, including the majority leader when he brings, sat right behind me when I was assistant Democratic leader. And so folks on the House side, I know because they were either staffers or they were connected to folks who are now on the Senate side. But you got to be able to work in that bipartisan way. Yes, you're going to need help from the federal government. And that's why you got to have strong relationships. I got a very strong relationship with U.S. Senator Alyssa Slotkin because we're going to be able to have to connect to those dollars and bring them down here so we can still rebuild Detroit.
Allan.
Councilman, when we talk to go to crime again, as crime is always an issue in the city, particularly certain neighborhoods, we have the green light program, which you don't hear much about. I'm curious your opinion, and the spot shotter. How are those programs working, and what else needs to be done when we talk about? When we talk about gas stations, I live in Detroit. There's only a few gas stations that I will fill up at and feel safe going to, particularly if at nighttime. What do you think about the green light program, shot spotter, and what do you see as being done to address some of the more serious crime issues?
Yeah, I'm unapologetically supportive of Project Greenlight as well as ShotSpot. I know a lot of folks worry about the Big Brother aspect of it and complain about it, but sometimes those are the same folks that I see them posting their life on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So, I say that to say that we need to utilize all the resources that we have to keep our community safe. And I base my votes generally off of the conversation with the community, the seniors in my district. When I asked them about shot spotters, how they would feel if you could have gun detection there in the neighborhoods, which will allow the police to know where folks who are just shooting random guns, they could come, and it'll also help solve a lot of unsolved homicides and cases. They said they were for it. And so we pushed for it. We supported it. We pushed for the funding for it and got that through. And same thing with Project Greenlight. If you haven't visited the Real-Time Crime Center here in the city of Detroit, I invite you to do that. I mean, those are phenomenal tools that are used that can help a lot of our folks. And for instance, particularly when a child comes missing or other incidents, we got to have the tools and resources to be able to help our.
Well, I have a question. Schools to revitalize the neighborhoods. I'm an advocate of the mayor controlling the schools. What's your take on how do we improve the schools? When I came back to the city, there were 200,000 kids at DPS.
Yeah.
Now, what we got less than 30,000 or 40,000? That's unacceptable.
Well, so what I would say to that is, I don't think the mayor should control the schools, but I would say we definitely got to have a better working relationship with DPS.
Who do they answer to right now? Who do they answer? Who do the board answer to? They get elected and they answer to nobody.
So what I would say is that a lot of that is based off of that partnership that exists. And I agree. You look at the enrollment, that's the biggest part in the decline of Detroit public schools, but that's because of the proliferation.
You got a superintendent that sent his kids to the Detroit public schools.
So
how the hell that we got faith in a system like that?
So what I would say is, as mayor, one of the things that we are going to do is bridge that broken gap between DPSCD as well as the city of Detroit. And you do it in a couple ways. And I'm going to give you an example of just some minor things that don't work. We got a program right now called the Detroit Promise, right?
Right.
Amazing program. Been in the city for a couple years. All you got to do is graduate with a 2.8 grade point average, and you can go to a 4-year college university for free. But we do a terrible job at marketing that as the city of Detroit. We do a terrible job of marketing that at DPSCD. We do a terrible job of connecting to the parents. This is what I'm saying. Education and a successful education is multifaceted. So yes, we got to put the resource and have the resources from school, and the city's responsibility is also to help close that bridge and connect those gaps.
Why are we paying kids $2,000?
Hey, listen.
Hey, listen.
He's city council. He's
Hey,
from there.
hey,
Hey, listen, want to be the
Now listen. Let me tell you, I agree with you. I saw that on the news the other day. And I remember when I was going to school, I was going to get perfect attendance so I can get the certificate.
Right.
I wish they was handing out those $200 gift cards there. It would have been great. But we got to address truancy. But when you look at truancy, you got to remember this. You cannot legislate morality.
Right.
You cannot legislate parenting.
That's why we
But
got
what you
kids freezing to death
Right.
that should have been in school, but living in a fucking van.
So one of the questions, I have two questions. One, it's been all over national news about the young lady who was unhoused and lost two of her children. And we saw the mayor of the city of Detroit get right in front of that story. What, as the mayor, do you think you can do to address people that are unhoused? And the second question is, the last few days, we've also heard things about down in Southwest Detroit, there was a water main break and things were frozen and all of that. And nothing had been done since 1930. But people are really pissed off about now their water rates are going up as well as their drainage fees. So can you answer both of those questions?
Yeah, so the first, let me say, it's just an absolute tragedy. Our hearts go out to them. Those folks now are housed in my district. In the 7th district with a new home. You know, what I would say is solving homelessness is the multi-million-dollar question. I say that for a reason. There's no one thing that's going to solve homelessness. I mean, it's a systemic issue that you look at. Poverty is a systemic issue. Or anybody that comes up here and says that I got the answer to solve homelessness, you got the right answers to things that have been happening for a million years. It just doesn't make sense. But what we can do from the city level, because folks have to remember, the city does not own homeless shelters.
Right.
We provide, and we've done that, put $6 million in the budget last year to kind of assist with some of that funding that comes from CDBG dollars from the federal government through HUD that we can be able to disperse throughout our homeless centers here, or shelters here in the city of Detroit. We got to do a better job of tracking them. We got to do a better job of connecting folks to those services. So whether it's the CAM model, whatever the case may be, we've got to ensure that those residents are actually getting into those shelters. And DPD will tell you they know a lot of the folks they come in contact with in that shelter. But we also got to do something different. And we got to remember why we have a huge homeless population in the first place. In the 90s, John Engler closed Lafayette Clinic and Northfield Clinic. What were these clinics? These were mental health clinics.
Yes.
So here's the point. Here's the point. We don't have mental health clinics here in the state of Michigan. So what happens at a homeless shelter? Yes, you give somebody a bed for the night, and then they're right back on the street, and you're putting a Band-Aid.
Why can't the city have its own mental health?
Well, they should, and we could use properties like the old Herman Keeper site, okay, that we used to have.
But Mayor Duggan gave that to some developer, and he ain't done shit with it.
I went on the council days, so but I can't say that I didn't vote for that. I wasn't on the council then. But what I can say is we've got to look at opportunities, and we got to treat homelessness in a holistic way.
Right.
It's the same way as we talk about when folks come in contact with our criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
If you send them to prison and just give them 3 hots and a cot, okay, when they get out, you're not doing anything.
They got a master's in criminology.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're providing the resources that they need so they can be productive outside.
Right.
We're gonna before we go on, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back with Councilman Fred Durhal III in his quest to be the next mayor of Detroit.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Together, we do better together.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's
Welcome back to Detroit in Black and White. Eric, you have a question.
He had the second question. He has to answer.
And your second question was
About people are really ticked off. I talked about what went down in Southwest Detroit. Nothing had been done since 1930, so it's an infrastructure issue. And then we're also talking about the people are now, after 2 years of not having a price hike in water. Now people are pissed off about the drainage fees and the water fees. And as the mayor, how would you address that? I know what I said to people, but I want you to address it.
Yeah, so first I'll tell you something that nobody really wants to hear. We've got a huge problem with infrastructure. And this is a problem the can's been kicked down the road for decades, no matter who the mayor was, decades and decades.
Because sometimes you got wood.
You still got wooden pipes under the ground. I'll be frank with you. So a lot of these
wooden pipes.
wooden pipes.
Go back to the 1880s.
And so some of these water mains are over 50, 60, 70 years old, and 100 years in some instances. And really, the city of Detroit is not and does not have the budget to be able to fix this infrastructure. So a lot of those dollars are going to have to come federally. A lot of those dollars are going to have to come through the state. We're going to have to build regional partnerships. Listen, if you are my neighbor and my water is flowing to your system, and I know we got Gleewood, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Right.
I can't take up your whole show talking about that. Okay?
You could.
Well, I'm sure you would, but what I would say is we've got to look and talk about this regionalism, and we've got to talk about how Gleewood works for us as well. How are we really benefiting from having our board when we need you to help fix our system because our water flows to your community? Now, that's not being divisive, but I'm definitely not saying that. But what I'm saying is we've got to tackle infrastructure together. The second part that you talk about when you talk about the drainage fees, folks would probably feel a little bit better about the drainage fees, even though they're high, if they knew how they were calculated.
Right.
So that's the call that I get all the time saying, how are they calculating these drainage fees? What's the explanation? What's the formula that goes into these drainage fees? And as mayor, we would say, we will let you know exactly what that is. We'll let you know what stormwater runoff is, but we'd also examine ways to eliminate that. Some folks say they experience high surcharges in stormwater runoff because they got flat surface driveways and no grass that can soak up the water and no retention.
So we got people
But
that
there are
don't have
people-
water,
well,
Councilman.
well,
We
this
got
is
people
true.
that don't have water.
This is
They
true.
live in
Water-
squalor.
water-
They don't have lights.
Yeah.
They don't have gas.
Yeah, utilities at all. So water affordability is a huge thing as well. We got to find a way for those folks who don't have access to those services to get services. But as a city, we got to do a better job of marketing it too. So if somebody's water is cut off right now, it should be no reason.
Don't we have enough PR hacks?
No.
Working for the
But
state?
I'll tell you this: we got a lifeline plan right now that if you have old water bills, your water bill will get set to $25 a month. You can keep your water on. A lot of folks don't know that in the neighborhoods. So we've got to do, again, a better job of connecting folks to these resources. And a way to do it is this. And I know you know this, Adolph, because you go back in the day. We have our Department of Neighborhoods, but we've got to have a better presence with those Department of Neighborhood folks in the community. They're there now. I definitely can speak for mine at District 7. I got some great district managers, but they need really more than one standalone office where folks can access those resources.
They used to play a vital role when they was created in the community and stuff. They like the eyes and ears of the mayor's office, but we don't have that. Who's going to pay the bill for the bankruptcy? Do the city have American Express, blue card, black card? Is they going to be able to pay that? Because we mortgaged our future. We got nothing else to give. They took everything. We went to the pawn shop and gave it to them. So how are we gonna pay for it when the bill comes?
So let me tell you, our city financially is doing well. The problem with that is, the problem with it is that it was balanced on the backs of the
pension.
When you look at our retirees, that's one of the biggest issues that exist. We got a lot of retirees now. I chair the retiree task force for the city. We're trying to create some innovative ways to at least help our retirees. You're never going to make them whole. So if somebody comes and tells you they can make them whole again,
it's not going to happen. Yeah,
because we just don't have the funds to do it. And cost. If you look at any city or municipality around the country, that's one of the biggest costs of a municipal government. And we didn't know at the time, with the pension system that existed, that people were going to live a lot longer than it advanced with the advancements in healthcare. But you add that on top of bad bonding and some bad decisions that were made. That's how we got into bankruptcy. But we're in a better shape now. I chair the Budget, Finance, and Audit Standing Committee, right? I'm a budget guy. I come from the state. This is what I know. This is what I do. We've got a triple credit rating upgrade. So decisions that we make within the next 4 to 8 years, which is why this election is so important, will determine what our city is going to look like for the next decade or 2 decades to come. And you got to make prudent, fiscally responsible decisions. You can't go crazy when you become mayor and say, I'm going to put a chicken in every pot and we're going to start putting gold on the street and we're going to put heat, warm. I've heard all types of stuff. You got to say, you got to realize we're just at a status quo here. So now we have to gradually increase the things that we want to do. And we don't have $827 million of ARPA funding.
Quickly, we run out of time. Top 5 issues, and if somebody wants to join your campaign, how they get in touch with you, etc. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say economic development, building our commercial corridors within that. I would say our educational system and our youth, connecting resources, making it better for families and attracting families to come live here so they can raise their kids. Public safety is going to be on there. We're going to fix and continue to connect our systems together, supporting CVI, community violence intervention. We're going to focus on transportation and fixing our city, making it world class in transportation. And last but not least, it's not just a policy point. We are going to fix the apathy here in the city of Detroit. People are very apathetic because they believe that their government doesn't work for them, and we're going to fix that. And we're also going to set a different standard. You shouldn't just be so excited when folks turn the lights on or they pick up your trash on time, because that's what your government's supposed to do to you. So we're going to change the standard.
How you get in touch with you?
Get in touch with us by going to durhalfordetroit.com. You can sign up. We've got an email list on there as well. You can join us, Durhal, DURHAL, for FOR Detroit.com, durhalfordetroit.com, and that's how you get in contact.
Adolph, I got one quick question. If I can sneak one in here.
Go ahead.
Councilman, one question. As a Detroit voter, one of the things that I'm going to be looking at is managerial skills. To manage, basically, you're a CEO of a corporation. What kind of managerial skills are you bringing to the table to be mayor?
Yeah, so again, I told you I was assistant Democratic leader of the caucus, which was not an easy feat, and we ran the caucus there. In Detroit City Council, a lot of folks don't know we got a huge staff on Detroit City Council now. Got about 9 folks. But managerial skills is that you got to be somebody where the buck stops with you. I am not a big person of throwing people under the bus. One thing you know about me and my team will tell you, I hold a very tight standard in my office. They're responsible for calling people back within 24 hours, and if they don't, they hear from me. But if there's a problem and folks have problems with the administration, okay, I don't blame the folks that work for me because the buck stops here with me. We're going to get amazing talent that is going to continue to help us push this city forward. We're going to get smart young folks, but we're going to keep a lot of folks there who have been there. One of the biggest mistakes and something that a person could do is fire everybody that is there right now, because institutional knowledge is one of the most important things to be able to keep the continuity of government. And just so you know, I did want to say this before y'all ended the show. I did watch one of the shows. I am more exciting than watching paint dry. I just want to let you know that.
Let me get Councilman.
Quickly, because
Just to piggyback on, you talk about education, people continue to talk about education, but it's the same old story. And when test scores come out, it's definitely silence from elected officials, the residents. So what deliberative intentional plan do you have for education?
Yeah, no, we've got to connect them to programs. You look at vocational programs, right? When I grew up, you had Go Lightly and you had a couple other options. Now we got Randolph, but it's not something that's really exciting.
Right.
As we talk about moving into the jobs of the future, tech, mobility, innovation, we've got to get plugged into Detroit Public Schools. But we got to create the pipeline to do it, kind of a seed to sell type of method. So we need to start looking at these kindergartners now and helping work with DPS to develop the curriculum as we are raising our kids up and put that curriculum in DPS CD, but also know that we're going to have a job waiting for them at the other end. We do this with Grow Detroit's Young Talent, where we give them 8,000 kids the opportunity to shadow and get into careers. We need to do that for all of our kids in some way and connect them to that.
Well, thank you, Councilman Fred Durhal. We're going to have you back.
I'd love to be.
You bring some insight into this race, and good luck on the campaign trail. Tell your father, I said, what's happening.
I will.
He learned from one of the best in the business. So good luck. Thank you. Detroit in black and white, Jim, that you come back on, and we're gonna do our final thoughts here. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think the councilman picked up a good thing is that there are a lot of good programs in the city that people don't know about. If they don't know about them, how effective are the programs? Even they can be the greatest operated programs, but the city does have to do a better job of getting the word out.
Jim, your final thoughts.
I want to say thanks to Gina and Sherman. Thank you for your comments. And we appreciate all our viewers. DeAndre Day is here today, so I want to say hello to Day, and one of our frequent contributors. Thank you for coming down today.
Anytime. Great. How y'all doing, Detroit?
Very
Michiganders.
Eric?
My final thought, this is National Reading Month, and just like Black History Month, it too should be a 367, 24-hour initiative.
Can you read?
I just spoke, so I can read, yes.
Vanessa?
Listen, if you are watching Detroit in black and white, we want you to tell people about the best show on this side of the United States of America, Detroit in black and white. We want you to come back join us on Wednesday and Friday evenings, as well as next Saturday. I think we are really fortunate here in the city of Detroit to have so many options, real options as to who will be the next leader for the city of Detroit.
Well, and my final thought, I don't have any final thoughts.
Yeah.
We'll be back on Wednesday next week at 8:30 to 9:30, Friday 8:30 to 9:30, and Saturday here at McShane's. This is Adolph Mongo. Thank you, Teresa. As always, she's the pilot that guides us in every show. Jim, Eric, Allan, Vanessa, our viewers, and I forgot, Lengel was going to say, the Pistons won 8 in a row. They got
They
their ass.
lost. They lost last night. They got killed. They lost. They ended their winning
About the Red Wings, they ain't shit either.
streak. Red Wings ended their streak.
Lions taking people season tickets. They ain't shit
Yeah, I
either.
saw that.
So and the Tigers, they don't even count. See you next week.